Good morning, children, and welcome to our online classes. Today, in the unit Beyond the Veil, we are going to learn a beautiful poem, The Haunted Houses. Why did I call it a beautiful poem? Because it's all about the horror. And I know, children, you all enjoy watching the horror movies more than the comedies. Therefore, you all would enjoy this poem to its complete extent. And also, children, when you talk about the haunted houses, it reminds us of the Halloweens. It reminds us of the spirits. But why do you think the poet must have chosen this genre? Let's have a look at it. The haunted houses. All houses wherein men have lived and died are haunted houses. Through the open doors, the harmless phantoms on their errands glide with feet that make no sound upon the floors. We meet them at the doorway, on the stair, along the passages they come and go, impalpable impressions on the air, a sense of something moving to and fro. So, children, the poet talks about the haunted houses. So, he says that all the houses wherein men have lived. So, earlier people used to live in these houses. Now, they are no more. So, he is talking about the ancestors who are no more. He says that all the houses wherein men have lived and died are all haunted houses. So, haunted by spirits, is it not? And these spirits come through the open doors, and these are harmless, unlike you find in the movies that there are harmful phantoms. The poet talks about the harmless phantoms. They glide on their errands, glide. They keep coming and going, and they do their work. Okay, and with feet that make no sound upon the floors. You can see that these phantoms, these spirits, they don't have feet. That is what the poet says. We all generally know that we have seen in movies that these spirits do not have feet, they don't walk, but they just keep moving, is it not? So the poet also has a similar kind of experience. So he says that these phantoms are actually harmless. So the poet is Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and he says that the way you believe in the living, similarly you need to believe in the dead also. And when you believe in the dead, we talk about the spirits. He talks about a world where you are equally related with the dead as you are related with the living. So he relates these dead spirits through his memories. He tells that these are the memories of the dead people. We meet them at the doorway, on the stair, along the passages they come and go. So he says that they come and go along the passages, okay, and through the doors, they enter through, you can see them at the doors, near the stairs, and they leave unclear, vague impressions on the air. They are not very clear. You cannot see them clearly as you see the living people. Some sense of something moving to and fro. So you can just feel that the spirits are just moving to and fro. That is what the poet says. There are more guests at table than the hosts. So who are the hosts? The people here in the house who are living. And when they call the guests at home, along with the guests who were called or who were invited, there are these spirits also. Therefore, he tells that there are more guests. Okay? And the hall is illuminated and is thronged with quiet, inoffensive ghosts. So, these ghosts are inoffensive. They do not create any kind of problem to the people over there, okay, who are living or who are the hosts. They are as silent as the pictures on the wall. They are harmless and they are as silent as the pictures on the wall. They do not actually create any kind of offense. So they are inoffensive. And they are also present in the illuminated hall equally as the living are present. Okay. The stranger at my fireside cannot see the forms I see, nor hear the sounds I hear. He but perceives what is, while unto me all that has been is visible and clear. So the stranger who is with me, sitting near the fireside, he is not able to see the forms, the impressions, the spirits that I can see. He is also not able to hear the sounds that I can hear, that the narrator can hear or the poet can hear. Okay, he but perceives what is. So whatever is seen or whatever is living, the stranger can only perceive that. But whereas I can perceive, the poet says that he can perceive all that is visible and all that is clear to him. So along with the living people, the poet can also perceive the dead. That is what he says. We have no title deeds to house or lands. Means the ancestors who have actually owned these houses or lands, we don't have the titles, our titles. The titles might have been their own titles, the ancestors' titles, owners and occupants of earlier dates. Is it not? Sometimes the house where you are living might not be your own. It must have been the ancestral property where the property is on the names of your ancestors. So the owners and occupants are of those earlier dates. Your names are not written there. That is what the poet says. So from graves forgotten stretch their dusty hands. So you must have already forgotten completely about your ancestors. But these ancestors still feel that they need to be a part of your family. They need to be a part of your house. So they stretch their hands from the graves and hold in mortmain still their old estates. Mortmain means permanent owners. So they feel, your ancestors who are the actual owners of this house, who have built the house, they feel that they are the permanent owners of this house, and therefore they come as spirits and they prove their presence in the house, telling us that we are the actual permanent owners. So here not necessarily that the poet must have been seeing the spirits, but he talks about the memories of his ancestors that he experiences as the vague forms or the spirits that he calls. So here the spirits that he talks about are not the harmful ghosts that you see, but they are just the impressions of our memories of the ancestors who have been living with us when they were alive and are still living with us when they are dead in the form of spirits. That is what the poet feels. So he asks us to equally believe in the spirits or the dead ones as you believe in the living. The spirit world around this world of sense floats like an atmosphere, and everywhere wafts through these earthly mists and vapors dense a vital breath of more ethereal air. So these spirits are all around us in the atmosphere. They float in the atmosphere. Okay, so in this world of sense where you believe only what you see, you also need to believe what you do not see. So the air which we feel, though we cannot see, which is vital for our breathing, similarly, these spirits are also not seen, but they move like mists and vapors dense. You can only experience or feel their presence, but you cannot really see them. They just waft, means they just pass gently through the air, telling us that we are also present in the atmosphere as you all are. The spirits want us to experience their presence. See how beautifully the poet has explained that the spirits are equally, means they also equally want to be recognized as a part of the atmosphere. So we need to believe in their presence. Our little lives are kept in equipoise by opposite attractions and desires. The struggle of the instinct that enjoys and the more noble instinct that enjoys. Okay, so the struggle of the instinct that enjoys and the more noble instinct that aspires, means you really want to have many desires, and these desires, attractions are all opposite to each other, is it not? Like the male is attracted to the female, the opposite genders get attracted to each other. Wherever there is good, there is bad. Wherever there is high, there is low. Okay, so wherever there is something, you find an opposite of it. Wherever there are mountains, there are seas. So everything in this nature has got opposite things, and these opposites are attractions and desires. Okay, and the struggle of the instinct that enjoys. So you have lot of instincts, feel that you want to, certain desires, certain aspirations that you have. Okay, and these aspirations are a part of our living world. Okay, and the poet says that these are all balanced forces. These opposite attractions are all balanced forces which make our life better. Okay, these perturbations here mean that worries, and this perpetual jar of earthly wants and aspirations are, and this completely, if you call your life as a jar, then this is completely filled with some wants and high aspirations, okay, which always brings worries to you. Only because of your aspirations you fall into deep worries. Okay, come from the influence of an unseen star and undiscovered planet in our sky. So from where are you getting these aspirations? From where do you get them? You get them from somewhere unknown. So the poet calls that unknown place as an unseen star or an undiscovered planet in our sky. So the poet here compares, here it is a symbolism, this perpetual jar of earthly wants and aspirations high. This is a perpetual jar is a symbolism of your life, okay, which is filled with aspirations. Okay, so this is the poetic device used here is symbolism. You can see very clearly as how beautifully the poet creates imagery in our while we read the poem. Is it not? And as the moon from some dark gate of cloud, this is a perfect example of visual imagery. And as the moon from some dark gate of cloud throws over the sea a floating bridge of light, across whose trembling planks a fancies crowd into the realm of mystery and night. So the way we move into the kingdom of mystery and night. So the moon, we all believe in the moonlight, and the moonlight comes from somewhere and it shows a bridge of light over the sea, which makes things clear to us. So we believe in that bright light, moonlight. Similarly, we need to believe in these spirits who must have come from some darkness, some mystery, some mysterious place, from some darkness. Okay, from somewhere they must have come. Okay, and we need to believe in their kingdom also, in the kingdom of the spirits. The way we believe in the moonlight, we need to believe in the kingdom of the spirits also. That is what the poet says. So from the world of spirits, their essence, a bridge of light, connecting it with this, over whose unsteady floor that sways and bends, wander our thoughts above the dark abyss. So abyss here means a dark deep hole, is it not? So here the poet says, as I told you, that we actually need to believe in the world of spirits as we believe in the world of dead. They both are existing together. That is what he feels. So the mood of this poem is contemplative, means the poet wants us to think and reflect over it. Okay, so he says that, so from the world of spirits some kind of light comes connecting us with that spirits, and this light moves here and there and it wanders our thoughts above the dark deep hole through which these spirits have all descended. So it makes us think over it. So think over it. The poet wants us to think over the existence of the spirit, existence of this world along with the living world. Okay, so with this we come to an end of this poem, and if you look at the paragraphs clearly, you will find that the rhyme scheme of the poem is AB, AB, and there are many poetic devices that have been used in this poem, like a simile wherein the spirit world around this world of sense floats like an atmosphere. So it has been compared. So using likes or simile is used, metaphor is used, and as I told you, symbolism, visual imagery, all these are the poetic devices that have been used in this poem. Hope you have enjoyed this poem, children, and keep smiling. Thank you.